Hello everyone, it's Jasmine here, and I'm the co-creator of Blooming Stardubs. So, I don't upload and make these type of videos, and this is my first time doing analyze videos, so I do apologize for this one not being the best, and the best well edited especially, but this is something I've always wanted to do, and I do hope you guys enjoy it. But before we begin and start, please note that if you guys aren't a fan of said ship and don't like it, that is totally fine and valid. But please just respect each other's opinions. And don't start wars and arguments in the comments, please. You're allowed to share your opinions and ship whatever you want. Do whatever you want. But just be civil and respectful towards one another, please. But anyways, for today's video, I'm going to be discussing and talking about the relationship, the ship between N and Uzi from Murder Drones, and why I think it's a misunderstood ship, and why it doesn't deserve the mistreatment and hate it gets. Now, before we discuss and talk about N and Uzi's relationship, we need to first talk about N and Uzi as characters on their own and who they are. We'll first start with Uzi, as she's the main character and who we focus on first in the show. Uzi as a character has been so mischaracterized and misunderstood that it's saddening unfair to me. Before meeting N and going outside the colony, Uzi had pretty much nobody, and was just all alone. She really didn't have nobody at all. Uzi, she had no friends, had a neglectful father, lost her mother, and her classmates were scared and mistreated her poorly, even forgetting that she even existed. And Fad pretty much being the only one who was ever really nice to her. Uzi felt alone. She wanted to fit in and build her ray gun, and sneak into the assembly layer, not only to save the world, but also to get the love and respect from her father that she wanted. Uzi, as we know, isn't very open, and pins herself as an angsty teen. Meanwhile, with N himself, before being turned to a disassembly drone, he was a servant, serving for Tessa and her family, similar to J and V, before being experimented on and converted into a disassembly drone, and also had his memory erased so many times. This was literally done against his will, and he has trauma from that experience. We even see that come into play and with his panic attack in episode 8 when remembering being cut open and experimented on. N didn't know who he was after being turned to a disassembly drone, and similar to Uzi, N has been outcasted and mistreated as well, from being called useless and an idiot. Even his own team members didn't respect him, with V pretty much pretending that she didn't know who he was and ignored him, while Jay mistreated him, and even tried to kill him once he started questioning the company back in the pilot. Along with that, he also saw positive things as like insults as positive things, and that was the only reaction he really gave. N is not innocent. Many in the fandom like to mischaracterize him and see him as nothing but an innocent baby, but he's not innocent. Nobody in the show is. All the characters are complex, and N didn't ask to be this way. He didn't ask to kill. He didn't want this. He didn't want to be this way, but beforehand he couldn't control his program and was pretty much only designed to kill, seeing worker drones as nothing but targets and killing them for their oil in order to survive. N honestly didn't really have nobody, and only really relied on himself. He literally made friends with rocks. Even though he always tried his best, he still cared for others and their feelings. We see that despite everything, N still cares about others and how they're doing, and is willing to stand up for others. And something else I gotta mention is that many see N as naive when that isn't the case. N is impulsive, sympathetic, and loving. He's a good robot, even before being turned to a disassembly drone, and similar to Uzi and even V, his character is much more deeper than some may think. People and some fans complain and talk about how N-Uzi as a ship ruined Murder Drones, and I know it's not uncommon for people to say this, and I know that's an issue that can happen in certain shows. I've certainly seen it, but with N-Uzi, I don't think that's the case, honestly. N-Uzi as a ship, if some of you don't know, was hated, like loathed in the fandom in the beginning, like when the show first aired. So much information was spread about said ship, and you had to literally hide being a fan out of fear of not being judged and bullied. You couldn't say that you liked the ship without being outed as a pro shipper. And Uzi is not fan service. Fan service is when it's appealing to an entire fan base. As I said, Nuzi was hated in the beginning, before we started seeing hints of the two starting to maybe have something more of a relationship. And Uzi is honestly one of the healthiest and well done and well written friends to lovers dynamics in media, at least in my opinion. And while they do fall under the category of the trope of enemies to friends and eventually lovers, but they're more of the friends to lovers as they developed and became friends rather quickly. Both N and Uzi are not only well-written and developed characters on their own, they also have a great and interesting dynamic, and work so well off one another, and cover each other's weaknesses. And after meeting one another, we see Uzi showing signs of slowly opening up and being more comfortable around N, which although is rather quickly, it also shows that N is pretty much the only one Uzi feels she can generally trust. And we see her loosening up a bit, but in episode 2, Heartbeat, is when things start getting thrown into question, discovering the absolute solver, especially Eldridge J. This puts some turning points in the relationship, especially after Eldridge J showed a hologram of her mother, assumingly killing her dad, and then tricking Uzi by pretending to be N. And after this does make you question what is real and what is not. But this situation in the question leads into both N and Uzi going their separate ways, but at the same time, we get to see how this affected them both. Trusting and communication is important, especially with the two characters in question. With Uzi opening up and saying how she can't do everything on her own, but also deals with the fear of everyone leaving and abandoning her. We see that expressed and shown in episode 4, Cabin Fever. While with N, he's scared of getting close and interacting with the worker drones and being too dangerous, mainly due to what happened with Uzi and her being scared and probably viewing him as a threat and possibly a monster. We see both characters facing the sadness and guilt laying on them both, but also, most importantly, we see the love and care that the two still have for one another. Despite everything, and despite the situations and things that get in the way, they face their problems and come together, and throughout the show we see that. We see both N and Uzi becoming more acceptable of one another as they realize they're both kind of the same and relate to their struggles but in different ways. They both can be each other and feel like they can be themselves without putting on a facade and pretending. Throughout the show, we see both N and Uzi slowly opening up and getting closer and closer with one another until the two finally confess to one another in the series finale. And what I love the most about how the relationship was handled in the show compared to other ships I've seen in shows is that I like how the relationship is written so subtle and slow and yet so tender and sweet. Before the series ended, the two weren't exactly on the lovey-dovey kissing phase that you see with other ships and other shows. They were they were on is that I don't know what's going on and I don't know what's happening, but you're important to me and I need you. And I just absolutely loved it. The relationship just felt so natural and not exactly in your face. And just because they didn't kiss in the finale doesn't make the relationship any less meaningless or impactful. Love isn't just shown through romantic things. It can be shown in different ways too, and still mean something. We've seen them hold each other, hold hands, and touch one another, and this shows that the two are very affectionate towards one another, and is so much more special than a kissing scene that would only cater to whims of the fan base. Sometimes, guys, a couple doesn't need a big grand kiss to declare their love to one another. Sometimes confessing and expressing through other ways can just be enough. N-Uzi as a ship is so misunderstood and overhated. Now look, although N-Uzi isn't the bestest ship out there, it's certainly not the worst, and doesn't deserve its hate at all in the slightest. People have mischaracterized both N and Uzi so much and just don't seem to understand their characters at all. Especially when it comes to Uzi and think her falling for N is character assassination, which I just think is silly and ridiculous. All the characters in the show are the same. They just went through something called character development and grew. Something I think some of you forget. Characters can still be characters on their own and be their own person and still fall in love. Female characters can have character outside of the love interest while still retaining their strength and develop. When people say N-Uzi is forced and just fan service, it's just not true at all in the slightest. N-Uzi was never forced and rushed. Liam planned for them to be something more since the beginning, and he expressed how much he adored and loved their dynamic, and how both of them are literally designed to cover each other's weaknesses. He didn't exactly hide that he adored them both as characters in their relationship.
SOS asks, who are your favorite characters in Murder Drones? Oh, good one.
Ooh, I think I've answered this before. My answer hasn't changed. It's a cop out answer, but I make the rules. Get out of here. I think N and Uzi together are my favorite because I think obviously they are specifically designed to cover each other's weaknesses and be supportive of each other in ways that they haven't really experienced from other people before. They're just wholesome good times. I think they play off each other really well. They kind of make each other better. I think Uzi, helps N stick up for himself and realize the value in himself, and I think N helps Uzi chill out a little bit sometimes. And I think so together, I think they're just a real force for good, and I love them, and I appreciate that they're there for each other.
Awesome.
That's wholesome AF.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, next question.
Before we met, scary stuff was actually pretty scary. And tonight, too, is weren't with me to make it fun somehow. I kind of forgot what that was like. Same.
And look, as I said, you don't gotta like N-Uzi, and you're allowed to even dislike it. Do whatever you want. It's fine if you're not a fan of romance as well, too. But to claim that it's toxic and problematic and saying how it ruined the show and ruined the characters all because you didn't enjoy the ship, it's just unfair, and some of you shouldn't even come to a show just for the ships. Y'all should watch a show for other things as well, too. There's other things to love and adore about Murder Drones. This show has so much more to offer, from its characters to its world building to the lore, the animation, and the music especially. Murder Drones was an incredible show, and I think it deserves its praise and love. Despite its flaws and issues, Murder Drones was a great show, and I'm incredibly grateful for its existence. And these characters, N and Uzi especially, have been comfort characters for me since the beginning, and have meant so much to me. Uzi especially truly resonated with me, and I truly do relate to her and her feelings, and her finally embracing who she is in the finale, no longer caring what others, thought about her, really just kind of resonated with me and just really meant a lot. Coming from someone who really struggles to fit in and wanting to be loved and wanting friends and being in fear of being seen as cringe. I really did resonate with that, despite how some may think that sounds silly. Uzi is an incredible character on her own, and she and everyone else in the show deserve their happy ending. Uzi and N are the heart of the show, and even without them being a couple, the two still have a great and fun dynamic, and just know that just because these two are together doesn't mean you have to stop shipping characters together. Everyone can ship whatever they want, canon or not. Y'all can still ship whatever ships you want, just as long as it brings you happiness and comfort and isn't problematic. Just remember to respect one another and just be nice. And realize that Murder Drones as a show isn't just about ships, and there's much more to the show. And also know that just because the show's over now doesn't mean you have to leave the fandom and such. The fandom will live on and continue growing as more and more fans watch and discover the show. The show will live on, and these characters will live on forever as well. And some upcoming fan projects will help keep the fandom growing and will keep the show's legacy alive. And I think that's all I've got to say. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, I've never done an analyze video before, and this is my first time doing one. And I don't think it was the best exactly, but I do hope some of you enjoyed it at least. I'll definitely try and do better going forward, as I do want to try doing more character analysis videos, not only on the other characters in Murder Drones, but also for other shows in general. And if anyone's interested in me doing that, please let me know, and I'll make sure to keep that in mind for future references. But thanks again for watching the video. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I do hope you all have a great and wonderful day. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.